This is the GPL Podcast, part of the Pull Tab Sports family.
Oh boy. Duke making mistakes. I love it. And so I had to train for this marathon.
Make sure you stay awake for the game tomorrow.
Wait a second. Hair game on GPL. It's at least you guys got stylists. Let's get this bandwagon going, folks.
Take
Come
that,
on.
me, Mr. Negative.
Now, here's Jupiter and Vigo. Good evening and welcome to the GPL Podcast, episode number 267. Let's bring him in. Vigs, how's it going tonight? We're back on our own old streaming platform.
We're just getting right into the regular season. We're going to feel comfortable tonight. Hopefully limit our mistakes. You know, we don't have a lot of rust because we dusted it off with the episode before. So good to go. And who's ready for Vegas, huh?
Oh, I know, but I know one guy who's probably ready for Vegas and ready for the season to start, and I think that's Pat Micheletti, and he's our guest tonight. Let's bring him in. Pat, good evening. How are you? Oh, did we lose Pat again?
We lost audio with Pat, obviously.
Did we lose? We just had him just a second ago. You can't hear us now, Pat? Look at that. That's funny. We'll give him a second here. Oh, now you're muted. Now you're can you hear us now? We'll kick him out for a second and just continue. Hopefully Pat can figure some things out here. Let me go to the chat here, Vigs. While I'm doing that, why don't you talk about what just happened this past weekend against St. Cloud?
Yeah, I thought it was a good way to start the season, you know, with the COVID situation where teams couldn't cross the border. NCAA said, heck, you can just play U.S. college teams for your exhibitions. And Minnesota and St. Cloud weren't going to play each other this year because of the scheduling conflicts that were coming up and, you know, got to fulfill those contracts. So they managed to figure out how to get an exhibition together. And, you know, talking to the players, they all felt like it was a real game. Cal Thomas said, you know, when you go back for a puck retrieval and there's a husky on your back, you know they're trying to get you. So you have to quicken up your retrievals. You have to quicken up your breakouts. Everybody has to be real sharp. You know, Mason Nevers said, you know, guys are trying to crunch you out there. You know, it gets your head clear real quick, and you gotta play real hockey. And I think that first period, the Gophers turned over the puck a little bit too much, and Bob kind of reiterated, you know, you come out of your summer skills work and you've got some stick handling moves you maybe want to try, and you know it's an exhibition. And then all of a sudden the coaches start getting in your ear and say, hey, let's get back to our game. So they're getting pucks deep and they're getting in their flow. And I really liked what I saw of the Gopher power play against St. Cloud. You know, they're getting pucks to the point, and the point defensemen were getting pucks on net. You know, Chesley and Kessler getting goals. Lots of traffic in front of the net. I asked Bob about that this week at availability, and he said this team got to net presence faster than any team he's coached. He hopes that's a sign that this season that'll be a trend for them.
Can you hear us now, Pat?
Yes.
Nice.
You know, we have a few glitches
You know,
early.
it's funny. We had you live. We were talking. We heard you all right before the show, and then
I thought Vigs wanted to get rid of me already, but I forgive you, Vig. That's all right. Yeah, you.
Vigs, one thing I will say is I was surprised by. I haven't seen Minnesota dominate in St. Cloud. Yes, exhibition in a long time. I thought it would be a much closer game, seeing it was so early in the season.
Yeah, you know, I think that just speaks to how deep the Gophers team is this year with experience, and not just the returning players, but their freshmen are experienced players too. One thing I really noticed throughout the game was how patient Minnesota was with puck possession. You know, even when the puck was in their skates or in a tight spot on the boards, you notice guys like Huglin and Thomas and Wood and Snuggerud, just being present to get their body to defend the opponent from the puck and then make a good possession play. I saw some of that from Oliver Moore too. Eric Paulson was a player I noticed do that quite a bit throughout the night. And I think that's a big thing moving forward for this team is to make smart puck possession plays. One of the things Bob talked about with Matthew Wood, he's a big guy who knows how to use his size, knows how to possess the puck. And I think that's going to be a big advantage for this group this year and really going to be a point of emphasis.
And Pat, like Viggs alluded to, Minnesota started a little slow, but then they got it going, and St. Cloud really didn't have any response, even in an exhibition.
Well, I think you guys had mentioned it. A big difference from a year ago and even 2 years ago that I noticed. Their depth is off the charts. Okay. And I was talking to Bob about this the other day. We were talking about power play. So that, I said, what's going to be your power play? He says, I got 3. I'm going to play 3. I thought, okay, here we go again. You told me last year it was 2 and you were going to, but now he's got 3. Now he's got 3 power play units and they're going to all play. And then secondly, I mentioned the depth of their team. And I said to him, well, where's your 1, your 4? He said, we got 4. That's it. We got 4 lines. There didn't know 1, 2, 3, or 4. We have 4. And we're deep. To see Bob this optimistic was a little surprising. I mean, he's thoroughly excited about it. But what that tells me about this team is that, there's guys that are going to want to play and want to show them that they can play. And every line feels they're as good as the other line. And so I think the big mantra for this year's team is to continue to push everybody to push each other for that last shift at the end of the game, for that power play opportunity, for that penalty kill opportunity, and not look at it from if you go back 2 years, guys, it was Nice, Cooley, and Snuggerud, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, every time they went on the ice, or in a goal scoring situation, they were going to be on the ice. We don't know what that line's going to be this year, if any, and that's okay, But so he's just, I just know they're really, really happy with the depth, and one thing they mentioned to me also was taking nothing away from a Brodzinski or a Nelson or guys that were here in the past. He said this group of guys is playing with a little more bite, a little more in your face, not back down, win those battles, and that's something a little bit different, from years past a little bit. And so it'll be interesting to see how this whole thing evolves.
And Viggs, one thing you had been talking about is that, you'd seen quite a few practices before this game against St. Cloud, and you didn't see any penalty power play work. And you were kind of curious what was going to happen. What did you see? And is it's just still very beginnings of that power play being built?
Yeah, I think there's beginnings, but anytime you can have a power play and have 4 number one picks out there with Rizzel, Snuggerud, Moore, and Wood, that's going to be a effective unit. And I thought they looked pretty good. Brody Lamb was playing on his strong side, which maybe is a sign that they want the puck mostly on the Snuggerud side, and they want Lamb to not be stuck on the half wall. They want him closer to the slot to really put the pressure around the net and kind of shrink the ice. So we'll see how that fits. What I liked was the dedication to traffic in front of the net. Mm-hmm. I think we're going to see that a lot with the guys that they have out there. We saw a defenseman shooting the puck. I think for a power play to be effective, you can't just rely on the guys on the off wings. You got to have guys up top who can fire the puck. Rinzel, we're still kind of waiting on that a little bit from him, but you definitely saw it with Chesley and Kester. And, if Rinzel doesn't step up into that role, they've got depth there and options.
Yeah.
I think the other thing I liked is Oliver Moore's speed on zone entries on the power play. You always want a guy who can just beat the forecheck with their speed, and Oliver Moore looks like a guy who can do that. The big question I think for me will be who can win the key draws. Minnesota went 40% against St. Cloud, and I asked Bob about that, and he's like, yes, we are aware, and it's not just the centers. We need our wings to pick that up. We miss Jackson Nelson. We've got to fill that hole.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
You would think a guy like Huglin is, and the strength of a Moore and how low he can get and is built. You would think, but it takes more than one guy. You need your help from your wingers. You got to know who's going in. You got to know, what am I going to do here? Right? Am I going to tie the guy up? Am I going to try to win it clean? Here's where I'm going to go with it. And that's communication amongst those guys that they've got to all understand, what's happening on a particular draw.
What's crazy is I saw them working on draws this week, and one of the guys that just kind of stood out to me was Paulson.
Yeah.
There's just something about him. He's got the hands, he's got the strength, he's got the technique. I think he could work his way into a lot of situations with that skill.
Yeah. I think people are going to really like him. I think you got to give him time to acclimate himself to college hockey, but he's very impressive for for a freshman.
Oh yes, I'm looking forward to seeing all these guys grow really quickly. Viggs, one thing that came up to me, or I started thinking about, is everyone knows where Snuggerud is on the power play. They know it's coming to him. Is this going to be an Ovechkin thing where they just keep feeding him anyway and think it's going to get through? Or could he be a decoy even on the power play? Because, the puck's going there.
We saw at times where he would switch with the player down low and go kind of to the side of the net and almost work a behind the net power play and pop out from time to time and create different looks. I think that's something that Minnesota is going to have to do. They're going to have him be one of those players who can slide all the way around from the top of the umbrella to the half wall to that net side and just be dangerous. If the teams are going to give him one-timers and catch and shoots on his off wing, he's going to take them.
Yeah.
If they're clearly taking that away, he's got to be dynamic and show other ways to score. And I think at times towards the end of the year, Jimmy just wanted to force shooting in those positions. And, goalies are ready for that at this level. Goalies, if they see it, they have a better chance than most, even against a snuggered shot. So you just got to be a little more creative. And they've shown that at times.
And that comes with maturity too, and I expect to see a different Jimmy Snuggerud this year, just in terms of, okay, I don't have to do this time. I don't have to, the play doesn't end right now. I can be a little bit more patient. I can find my spots, and to your point, Viggs, and to get in those areas, not just stand pat waiting for it and to let it go, and so and I think, and that's why I'm so happy he came back, because I just think that whole year is going to make him just a completely different type of player than we've seen, and I think it'll be a better player.
And I think one part about Snuggerud on that power play is Matthew Wood has spent a lot of time in the spot where Jimmy Snuggerud typically likes to go. And I know when Bob was putting together that unit, he asked Wood, are you okay being in the spot? And Wood's like, I've never played that spot before on a power play, but I'm happy to do it. Yeah. But I think having a guy who can trade spots is really the best way to have a dynamic power play that can handle a lot of different looks.
I'm glad you brought up Wood, because I was asking Bob about him, and the best way I can describe where he's at is, it's like you're playing a golf course for the first time. You don't know, right? You don't know. And I think they're trying to get him through that first round and kind of understand where he thrives because they think he can. I mean, they love him, but where's he going to be most effective? And I think through a few games they're going to find that out. But I mean, look at it. I mean, he's big, he's strong, he's got great hands. He thinks the game really well, and so I think obviously he's going to be a great addition to this team.
So a great opening exhibition against St. Cloud. Now they're back to normal work here. And now you've got a slight change with your job kind of here, Pat. You're going to be taking over all the home games. You're taking over where Frank was. And
for the road games. Yep.
Oh, yep. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. The road games. Yes, that's right. The road games will be taken over for.
Depending upon how it all works out TV wise. But yeah. So yeah, it'll be a fun year. It'll just, be every game and it'll be it's best for me and everybody involved, I think.
And obviously you can't fill Frank's shoes. He's such a pro. He's been doing it for so long. A boy, what a great career he had.
Listen, there's a lot of pressure on me because I pick on Wally all by myself. Easy to play off of Frank, and Frank and I had a little thing going there, and poor Wally. I mean, I think I'm up to the task. Although I will miss picking on Frank too, because he's really easy to pick on, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you guys know. So hey, listen, gonna miss Frank. Love him to death, and when you had enough, you had enough, and he had enough, and he wanted to step away from it, and spend more time with his wife and family, and good for him, But we'll get his name in every broadcast, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, Frank and Lou gone the same year. Times are a changing. Yes, they are. But that's kind of how life is, and. So you'll be filling in on the road and a couple things at home, depending on where it is. And then you've got a group of youngsters that are going to cover the home games. And I kind of like that. A little freshness getting into the broadcast there, isn't it?
Well, I won't bore you with everything that happened, but as the process went along, it was just, I said, get a bunch of guys, do it every game, get a different guy in. And, they settled on going with 3 guys that will, fill in when I'm on TV. And I think it's great. I think it involves more guys in the alumni and young guys who might want to get into this line of work at some point. And so it's good. Eric Shearhorn, as you guys know, Jack Rams, and Sam Rossini, and it'll be great for those guys. They'll have a good time. Wally will get them through it, and it'll be good.
And I'm trying to get Sam on the show for next week. We'll see. We're having a little back and forth, and I'm also communicating with the other 2 as well. So they would be fun to have on.
Paid a lot, so
Well, I remember they did this with the TV position that Ben Clymer stepped into years ago, too. I think Casey Hankinson did some games. There was at least one more player, and they kind of did the same thing and see how guys fit. And it's exciting to have the young guys. They've been great on the podcast so far, and I'm looking forward to it as well.
Yep. I think it's a great move. And, listen, Greg Gerlach and, everybody involved there were kind enough to work things out with me on that side. So it worked out well for everybody, I hope.
I think so too. But now we're going to put Pat on hold for a second because we need to talk about our sponsors here. And one of those sponsors is lunch bucket hockey, Vigs. Tell us about lunch bucket hockey.
Yeah, lunch bucket hockey. Players that are hardworking, grit and grind players that would do anything for their teammates. From mites to beer leagues and everywhere in between, lunch bucket players are the hardworking, unsung heroes of the greatest game on ice. Now there's an apparel and lifestyle brand celebrating these pillars of the sport. Get the gear to match the grind with lunch bucket hockey hats, hoodies, tees, and custom jerseys. Check out lunchbuckethockey.com today and get some gear.
Yeah, I cannot wait. I need to get some gear myself. But we also need to talk about Jimmy's. And you were talking about how you were getting some of that caramel sauce out, Vigs. How did you get a chance to use it?
Maybe a little too much lately because it's caramel season. You know, we've had some cool nights. I get a lot of apples at Cub, and I also get my Jimmy's caramel dip. And you know, it's delicious with apples, pretzels, celery, ice cream, even your finger or a spoon. You can't go wrong however you want to dip Jimmy's caramel dip. Available in original and sea salt caramel. You can find Jimmy's at your local grocery store today. Pick up a tub or two because you're not going to want to put it down. Caramel's coming. Jimmy's salad, dressing, and dips. Don't you be messing with my dressing.
And of course, we thank both Lunch Bucket Hockey and Jimmy's for sponsoring the GPL podcast. Let's bring Pat back in.
I'm hungry.
There he is. Yeah. I bet you are.
Tell me, Pat.
There it is.
I'm disappointed in both of you guys, though. I thought, you know, we'd have some fun in Vegas, and I find out you're not going.
I had already planned to do Duluth this year, going up there. It's going to be wonderful, a full weekend. Traveling, I have a huge trip traveled for next year that's very long and expensive. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I'll skip Vegas.
I've got a busy weekend of Pee Wee and 10U hockey coaching, and I've got to get my level 4 certification. So I've got to be in a classroom this weekend as well. Got to get that out of the way. So sorry, Pat.
All right. But you'll be listening on the radio.
That's right. It'll be like I'll be right there with you.
Yeah.
No TV this week.
No
right?
TV.
Yeah, it says BTN Plus on Friday night. I don't know how they're going to do that.
I don't know.
It doesn't say Saturday, only says Friday. Maybe BTN's mistaken and they'll get rid of it, but that's what it says now. But
Maybe.
who
I don't
knows?
Maybe we'll get the arena video and we'll still get to hear Pat.
Ooh.
be a good thing to do, right?
That's good of best. That's good of both
both
worlds right there.
Right.
Well, Viggs, you've kind of been doing your own little top 20 in your head for years. And you and I thought this week, hey, let's put out what you've got going for your top 20. So, you know, we added this new page on GPL for Vigo's top 20. Let's bring it up here. And you're going to do this every week, Viggs, to tell us what you think is the top teams. Tell us about it a bit.
Yeah, I really think there's a clear top 6 at the start of the year right now with Denver, BC, Minnesota, BU, Michigan State, North Dakota. I think those are my teams that are favorites for the Frozen Four. They're all kind of favorites in their leagues. I like the depth of all these teams and the high-end talent. I think once you get past that top 6, you get into a tier of that 7 through 20 that are all tournament eligible teams. It probably goes deeper than 20. I think I've got 3 or 4 teams that are just outside this top 20 that I think could develop over the year and rise up into it. So I think that's kind of my big thought there. You know, I had Michigan kind of higher up in the standings, and then after seeing them play against Minnesota State, they are going to drop some games the first half of the year. Will they get it figured out? You know, history shows that they can pull off big upsets. Right. But I think they're going to be a team that's going to struggle and have to rally at the end of the year to get in good pairwise position. So just when you're doing a ranking, I thought, they're not quite as polished as these other teams right now.
You don't seem to have Cornell at number 1. They seem too low. Somebody keeps voting for Cornell on the Us Show poll or whatever.
But they did have 2 votes in the first poll. So somebody already changed their mind and said, you know what, I can't vote for them. It's always hard to vote for those ECAC teams. They get started a little bit later. They've had
Oh,
down years
Mhm.
since COVID. I think, not having the grad transfers in that league really hurts them in today's college hockey. And I think they've lost some players that, could be in that league. So even though you might have a team that has a good record in the ECAC, I don't know if they're being tested like some of these other teams in college hockey. I think college hockey as a whole is getting better, deeper, more experienced. Sure, they could, make a run here at the end of the year and surprise us, but I just think it's a little early to be crowning them as a top team.
So what do you
So
think?
you get. Oh, go
You
ahead. Go ahead, Pat.
Obviously the regions are going to be what Fargo, right, this year. So
Mhm.
I mean, are we putting Minnesota, North Dakota in there right now?
I mean, if they're a 1 seed and a 2 seed, they're for sure going to be there, especially with those other teams, Denver, BC, BU, trying
Right.
to compete for those top seeds. It will make too much sense, which will be a fun time in March.
You got to beat the best to be the best.
Yeah, no doubt.
And you'd rather play in front of a big atmosphere.
Mhm.
Even in St. Louis in the regional last year with those big schools, you didn't quite have the fans pack the building, even though it was a small building. If you have a Minnesota, North Dakota regional, it's going to be packed for all 3 games.
Mhm.
You'd probably be able to, double it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
for
And
sure.
Fargo's smaller than Sioux Falls, so it's not as big of an arena.
Right. It's about what they can get, almost 6, maybe
Uh,
55.
yeah, it's around 5 or less. It's
Yeah,
around there.
it's a
Let me
great
chatter.
atmosphere.
Yeah, great atmosphere, but I've been to both. I did prefer Sioux Falls' building a little better because it was just bigger and a little more accommodating. But like big, like you said, Biggs, it'll be fun either way. So all depends on the pairwise, though.
All depends on pairwise. And I think you already see, games impacting pairwise. Michigan split in
Mhm.
Minnesota State, pairwise
I
implications.
mean, that's a huge one for Minnesota State.
It's
if you
a huge
Mhm.
win for CCHA.
Yes.
Right.
For that league. I think
Right.
sometimes you look at leagues and you can almost say, there's going to be a 1 seed from Hockey East, Big Ten, and CHC, and then you might have another one from one of those leagues, and then you
Right.
start looking in 2 seeds, Big Ten and CHC. Last year, Hockey East didn't have high end teams after the top 2, so. Yeah,
Right.
I think, I've got Omaha pretty high right now. I like what Mike Gabinet's doing there. He just got a contract extension. They've
Yeah.
got depth. They play heavy. They play hard. They're going to be in the race for the NCHC this year because I think, the top 3 or 4 teams from that league will be in the top 8 or 9 in the pairwise at the end.
Yeah. I listen. We play UMD next weekend. Unfortunately, the Plant kid's going to be out, but they've got a lot of young, really good players. This is one of the first year Scott Sandelin, and I said, you know what, I think we could be pretty good, and that league will be interesting to see. Denver lost a lot, but they have a lot coming back, right? They Bynum obviously coming back, and other guys filling roles, but um, that's going to be that's going to be another tight league, for sure. In the top 5 anyway.
Yeah, I think the one thing with Duluth, we're getting a week ahead of ourselves here, but
Yeah.
I felt like that team needed a shakeup, and they've got the 11 new freshmen. That's going to change their locker room quite a bit and maybe elevate the competition within. They had so many injuries last year. Talking to Scott Sandelin, it's hard for them to practice and get the right, compete level and get the right mindset and play hard all the time rather than, kind of just get to Friday, and get a roster on the ice. That's not a good situation.
And what he has compared to years in the past, he's got some guys who can finish. I mean, he's Shagabe, both Plant kids. That line's going to be dynamic for them. When they're all healthy and when they're all playing. But they've got a little more scoring on this team, and so it'll be interesting to to see the style that they play too, because you know how they shut it down. They play it close to the vest. They don't give up. You know, when you're seeing good UMD teams. So I mean, I'm anxious to see them play next week.
My last UMD comment here, their scores also are tough scores. When Isaac Howard went to UMD, a lot of people were like, ooh, flashy, high pick, goal scorer. Not the right attitude for Duluth.
No, right.
That was kind of a misfit for both sides.
Yeah.
And I think some of these guys that we're talking about here, they fit UMD hockey a lot better. And as I talk to coaches, what do you recruit? Fit. It's got to be the right fit, number one, or neither party is going to be happy.
Yep, 100%.
All right, Vig. So, you got your top 20 thing here. Anything else you want to talk about? It looks like something you want to do maybe every week or so.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Sounds good.
Right. All right, sounds good. Let's bring it back here and a one up.
I agree with your top 6. So,
well, there you go. There you go. A lot of new rules this season, Vigs. I know you're highlighting a couple of them for us here, but checking from behind can be a minor if a player turns their back at the last minute. We've seen a lot of defenders try to get away with this, turning on purpose or not on purpose. But now it looks like the referees have the discretion to call that differently.
I think when the rule was put in place, they really wanted to protect amateur hockey players. Mm-hmm. And the mindset was, if you make contact to the head, if you hit somebody from behind, it's a 5-minute major. I think what we saw with that implemented in the game is you had so many of these hits where, it's minor contact. He eases up going to the boards and the player has made kind of that mistake move to turn his back at the last second. And the hitter doesn't have a lot of opportunity to ease up, and they're still going to make some contact. So I think this rule is kind of a walk back from that. So now the referee has to make the decision. Is it a violent contact? And is it reckless? Is it risking injury to the player? You've put that power in the referee's hands. I worry a little bit that we might see players more aggressive in these situations, knowing that it can be minors, which is going to be bad for college hockey. But we're going to see how mature everybody is. Can the players handle it, and can the refs handle it?
Let me ask you this. You said two things. You said head contact or contact to the head, and then you said hitting from behind. There's almost two separate rules here, right?
Both penalties can now be minors. You used to have that contact to the head where someone's coming through the neutral zone and they just kind of nick it. Both can now be minors. They can go to video review. They can take it from a major to a minor, or they can not call anything at all. They have a lot of options now and flexibility in calling it on the ice and calling it in review. Now, I know the point of emphasis has been put out to coaches. Don't just be challenging these
that's
willy-nilly.
Can you imagine after, hey, we didn't get the call? Oh, and then you called that one? I'll be see how that plays out, because we see it all the time, right? Mm-hmm. And it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. I'm a big hey, listen, I'm one of those guys. I hate seeing the checks from behind that are into the boards. For me, you're gone. You're done. See ya. I don't care. Mm-hmm. Now, if you clip a guy and it was unintentional, and you happen to, collide or hit the head or whatever, I think you can have some discretion there. If a guy wasn't, literally going after his head. But the checking from behind, I have no time for. Zero. Mm-hmm. That's me. I get it, but I just don't.
The one thing with this rule is I hate it when there's play acting happening on the ice, where someone wasn't hit that bad and they're acting like they got crushed and they can't get up.
Right. But you know what? If the officials and us, all of us, aren't smart enough to see that, then we shouldn't be in the game. Right? We shouldn't. If the official can't figure that out,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
I agree with you. It's going to be a challenge for the referees to handle this.
Yeah.
And they've just been given more power, more discretion to figure it out.
Yeah.
And
I hope
I
it
think
works.
we'll have a lot of confusion with fans and a lot of coaches too. But
It means I can't wait to see a couple referees at a local establishment after a game this year. Just get their thoughts.
Well, me in the booth, I'm just going to have to say, well, I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see what it says, right?
I guess, yeah. A couple other things here, Vigs. Double jeopardy is gone. So that means if you're on a delayed penalty and you give up a goal on that delay, you do not have to serve the penalty. This was kind of a new rule they added, what 5 or 6 years ago, Vigs? They thought it would catch on. Maybe the NHL would pick it up, and it didn't. So they decided to backtrack on it.
yeah, our buddy at North Dakota, Eric Martinson, said he hoped the rest of hockey would like this idea, increase scoring, but no one did. And so the coach has said, if no one's going to follow this, we're just going to get rid of it. So I kind of liked it. I don't think you should be rewarded for taking a penalty, and getting scored on with the extra attacker isn't rewarding that team.
If the NHL would have done it, maybe things would be different.
For sure. If the NHL would have followed suit, or if they would have done what the PWHL, had said, if you score shorthanded, you get your player out of the box. If teams wanted to pursue that kind of stuff, maybe we'd see some of that too. I like scoring. So
high sticking, a little different when it comes to a goal now. It's no longer the crossbar. It's the shoulder blade of the player, which is still more of a judgmental thing, but I think it might be easier for the referees to see this.
I think it's definitely easier to see and review because you're not trying to break out your geometry and figure out the tangent and the cosine and all that and figure out where that stick is. I think the one interesting thing I heard this week is if a player is on their knees or on the ice and they're touching a puck, no goal. So
Really?
Oh, because it's above their shoulders?
Correct.
Wow.
So I don't know if Blake Wheeler, when he knocked that puck, if his stick was, above his shoulders, but
right,
that's the rule now.
Interesting. That's very interesting.
I don't know.
Oh, here we go.
You might just see a referee just kind of put their head down and say goal when they see that.
Yeah.
Technically.
What do you think of that?
Me personally, I've always liked the idea of at least being able to hit the puck or, with a high stick when it comes to a goal, because that's skill. It's not, grabbing a puck and throwing it. It's not kicking a puck. It's a very skilled thing. And typically, it's not like you're high sticking, whacking it at somebody. It's more or less a deflection or a quick thing. Typically, especially in college with full protection, you're not going to be coming close to hurting anybody. So I liked it just because of the skill level. What do you think?
Yes. Can I add one more?
Yeah.
I'd like to see kicking. I would. It's hard enough to score goals, right?
I have more problem with kicking, but I can see your point.
I don't have any problem with any high stick, and I have no problem with the kicking motion. You get the puck in the net, you're doing your job.
I don't like the kicking motion because you have goalies who are trying to cover pucks with their equipment. And if there's a kicking motion at a puck as they're trying to put their glove on it, I think that's too dangerous of a situation for me. Yeah, I don't mind some of the redirection stuff off the skates, but the kicking stuff around the crease just makes me kind of cringe a little bit. You got to get in that heavy stance and put two hands on your stick and find a way to get the puck in that way.
What do you think about the high stick then, Viggs?
Respect the goalies way too much.
They do.
Way too much. You know,
Hey, I want goalies to want to play goalie. So
if you and I had the conversation of what you teach kids to go hard to the net and take it hard to the net, and now when you take it hard to the net and you have nowhere to go because there's a defender right on you, and there's the goalie, and you run into him because you have no choice, you get a penalty. What do
You
you
can
do?
ask Mr. Nelson about that, Viggs. It happened quite a few
Right.
times to Mr. Nelson last year.
yeah, I guess I'm okay with players going hard to the net. And if there's contact, they shouldn't get charged with the running of the goalie stuff. But I think if you start allowing kicking at the net, back to what we were talking about, as a bigger guy, I might drive the net, locking up the defenseman with my stick and taking him into the goalie and then kicking him. So you're going to see big guys just come in there. And it's like a rugby scrum. And all of a sudden they're the hooker and they're coming in trying to kick their foot and drive the other players out of the way. So I think I get your point. You want to see the skill plays, and kicking can be a skill play. But the way I think about it as a big guy, I'm just going to start doing rugby scrums and trying to get to the puck that way if that's the rule.
It's a hard game, Viggs. It's hard to score.
It is hard to score.
Viggs, you have face-offs listed on here. How are face-offs changing this year?
Oh God, the face-off rules of the last couple of years just drove me nuts. Where guys would cheat and they'd be given warnings, and there was just no consequences for that kind of behavior. And now guys will get thrown out if they're cheating, and they're going to be putting wings in there. The one exception to that is the icing situations. They don't want to allow that delay tactic where they put in a wing to get kicked out of the draw to get the center some extra time. So they're not going to do the kickouts in those situations. They'll still go back to the warning. But I think it's going to be better. It's going to give the linesman some way to have control over the faceoff dot, because I think it's just getting to be ridiculous the last couple of years.
What about goalie interference? We hear anything about goalie interference, or is it still going to be crazy all over the place? Because I saw somebody mention it in the chat. I just couldn't find it here.
I didn't see anything in the rules update. I'll have to watch through some of the videos a little bit more closely to get that. The Big Ten held a conference call where they kind of explained some of the nuances of these new rules, and they've sent out videos of examples. As we get into the season and we start seeing how these rules are called, I think it would be a little more clear.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Well, we need to hear from more of our sponsors here, Viggs. I know we've got Cub Foods coming up here. So you were talking about Jimmy's and going and getting your Jimmy's dips and whatnot. And what a great place to do it. Cub Foods.
Yeah, I got to go to the Gopher USC game this last weekend. Outstanding atmosphere. We've seen some night games for the University of Minnesota. Tailgating season is well underway, and I hope a lot of those Gopher fans are going to Cub Foods. It's your go-to grocery and liquor store. You don't need to scurry around town picking up all your game needs everywhere where things are out of stock. You just go one place, Cub. Hamburgers, hot dogs, brats, chips, veggie platters if you're eating healthy, cold cuts, party trays, desserts if you're not eating healthy. It's all in one place. And be sure to hit up Cub Liquor before you head out to grab all the drinks your tailgaters are sure to love. Go to Cub on your next shopping trip for all your tailgating essentials. And you're muted, Jupe.
Sorry, I was muted. That's my bad. I wanted to kind of show I've got my Duke Cannon product in my hair here. I looked at some other products as well. I'm coming this close to buying one of their soap bars. What can you tell us about Duke Cannon that we already don't know?
I mean, if you want some good flow, you want to get some of that medium paste. It gives you that good texture. And, if you're a hard worker, you need a soap that works just as hard as you do. Maybe you want to smell like you're in the Caribbean. You want that bay rum. Maybe you want to feel like you're going for a midnight swim with the sandalwood. I kind of like that one. And, they've got some seasonal selections too. We got Trophy Game, Buck Moon, ever popular candy corn. So grab yourself Duke Cannon's big-ass brick of soap today and try it out for yourself. Climb aboard on the Duke Cannon train and get the best in men's hair care, beard care, soaps, deodorant, and cologne. Smell like you give a damn. Duke Cannon. Work harder, spell better, make your hair a weapon.
Maybe I need some of that beard stuff, huh, Viggs?
I mean, your beard's getting pretty long.
My ugly.
If you want that Santa beard, you got to put some
Well,
product in there.
Yeah, I did. Shave it once this summer, but little Amish look going because it can't quite fill it in here. But maybe I need some Duke Cannon for my beard.
Yeah, maybe put some product in there. It'll enhance the flow of it a little bit.
Yeah. All right, let's bring Pat back in here. I noticed you tweeted something today, and I thought it was important to talk about it. You think because of some recent rulings that NIL's national is it?
NLI, National Letter of Intent.
NLI are probably going away as of, what is it, August of next year? And it's going to be maybe more of a contract type of thing with players. What's going on?
Well, with the revenue sharing that's coming, things are going to change. Right, Pat?
Yeah.
You got some insights on this, Pat?
Oh, I just think we don't, it's not college anymore. It's not. I mean, it's a free for all. I don't like it. We're getting further and further away from what college athletics is, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But and I don't know. I'll reserve judgment until we see all of this shake out. But yeah, it's concerning to me.
So it's going to be more like a contract now, Viggs?
Well, I think they want to have the details in there that bind the player to the school and how much revenue sharing they're getting. So it's real clear up front. There's going to be some aid agreements that they're going to be agreeing to when they sign these to kind of, I think, limit the school's liability and just make that real concrete about what's involved. I do think players have more flexibility than ever. And this is just kind of moving to that because anything that's going to go before the courts is going to get challenged. So if they make it more like a contract where they're a professional versus an amateur, maybe you're trying to tie them to the school a little bit harder and get them to agree to these transfer windows that they're trying to set up. Because once they do sign these aid agreements, these contracts, other schools are not supposed to continue recruiting them, just like the NLI. And supposedly they can only leave during these windows that are going to be established by the NCAA. But as we all know, there's lots of table talk between agents and advisors and coaches that get around that anyway.
We're going to see guys being traded from Minnesota to Ohio State for, we're mark my words. We will get to that point. We will get to that point. And I don't know. I'm old school, but I know we're in a new era of things.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it really, really makes it hard on the institution to keep players. And I think it's going to be
it's going to be different.
I'll sit back and watch it.
Well, what do you think? Mote Taylor here says it's are they going to be handing out 1099s?
It is not clear how this is going to work. I know the U is looking to hire people to help figure this out. There's going to be like a general.
Yeah, general managers. Yep. But we think that it's going to be kind of football and basketballs first, and it seems like the coaches are going to be the last to know about anything, at least for hockey side and maybe the minor sports at the U, right, Viggs?
From what I can tell, about 10% of the 22 million goes to every other sport other than football and men's basketball. So you're going to have hockey splitting that 10% with volleyball, women's basketball, baseball, track, cross country, wrestling, all that stuff. So it is not going to be a big part of college hockey. The biggest part of this settlement that's coming is that places like the University of Minnesota can hand out 26 full scholarships. Right now they're limited. Right now they're limited to the 17. Mm-hmm. This will be 26. I've heard some stuff where the roster might be able to go higher than 26, but you can only do 26 scholarships. It's still kind of being up for negotiation. I don't think there's a lot of hockey people involved in that decision making with the settlement, nor were they consulted. So it's pretty complicated how it's going to work out. And of course, you have schools that can opt not to go into this revenue sharing. You're going to see schools like St. Cloud and UMD in this situation, North Dakota maybe. Who knows how they're going to handle it? But a lot of changes coming.
Which kind of worries me a little bit about hockey. And we're trying to grow the game. And listen, a lot of these schools, look at your top six. Look at your, right? They're all blue bloods. Right? Veeks?
Yeah.
Yep.
Guess what? It's going to be like that every year. Unless there's some way. And I've been harping because, hey, as much as I want Minnesota to win the national championship year in and year out, you know what? I also love the competition of guys being on, having the ability, right, to get some play. And, that's the competition of it is the best. And we need more than 10 teams. I'll add 4 leagues, okay? 10 teams that are vying for it every year. And I think, I don't know. I don't know what, we always talk about, oh, geez, Iowa should add us, get in the league, add all these teams. Well,
where's the incentive of all of a sudden you got to split the pot with another team?
Right.
Yeah, Ward Manuel was talking about Michigan, how they're going to handle it. And right now, they are going to go into the revenue share and maximize that and give out that $22 million. But he estimates it's $29 million to fund all the scholarships that they currently offer at full room and board. And he's like, we don't have $51 million right now to do that. And they don't want to cut scholarships. They don't want to cut programs. I know I just read that Ohio State is probably going to be cutting men's gymnastics scholarships from their institution because there's only 10 NCAA institutions that sponsor men's gymnastics at this point. Mark Coyle got ahead of that and took a lot of flack for it, but I think he was forward thinking, knowing that this stuff is coming, and he wanted to focus what the University of Minnesota offers, provides, and supports. Because it's really hard to support a program if you don't support them fully.
Well, okay, let's stay on Ohio State, right? You guys have seen the crowds there. You see where they play in that monstrous basketball building. There's been talk for 10 years about building a new arena. Who are we kidding? That's not coming, right?
Well,
their new president is.
I know
he's a hockey guy.
Yeah. Guess what? I've heard that. I've heard it for 2 years now. But anyway, yeah, I know he's newer. But that being said, who's to say? Guess what? Hockey, you're not bringing in anything.
It will be interesting.
Yeah,
we have to keep moving forward here, guys, because I think this whole pay for play is going to get crazy. We're going to keep learning more, and it's going to be really another year until a lot of this happens. Well, we've got an icebreaker this weekend in Las Vegas at Orleans Arena. Vigs start out with Air Force playing Minnesota, and then you've got UMass taking on Omaha. Omaha's looking really good so far this year, but Frank Serratori's Air Force Friday night at 9:30. What do you think?
Yeah, the Falcons got their tails whooped by ASU in the first game of the season. I think it was 8-1.
Yes.
But of course they came back and won the game in overtime the next night. So I think Air Force has been one of those teams. They're going to be a tough out.
Yeah.
They're going to be a tough out. If Minnesota doesn't separate from them quickly, it's going to give Air Force hope. And when Air Force gets hope, the games can get long. Bob was talking about his tournament game against Air Force where they knocked him out. this is going to be a tough matchup for Minnesota. One thing I really liked about their exhibition with St. Cloud was how well they defended. I think they only gave up 18 or 19 shots, something like that. They took away the house in their defensive zone. There wasn't a lot of room, and when they got the puck, they got out quick. When St. Cloud tried to dump the puck and get in their forecheck, Minnesota was quickly getting to their breakout routes and getting out of the zone. So I think that bodes well for a series with Air Force if your team can execute those two things.
Well, and I'll add on to that and say this. If Minnesota wants to be, in your top 5 leagues and stay in your top 5, they have to be a team that dictates the play. And what I mean by dictate the play is that we're going to play our way tonight, and you're going to have to try to stop us. They can't say, oh, well, Air Force, they like to slow it down. They like to clog that neutral zone, blah, blah, blah. You've got to smack them and keep that momentum going and make them get on their heels. And if they do that, then they'll be able to put them away early, in my opinion. But if they allow Air Force to play and Air Force, you're going to let us play, and they play, you saw a different Air Force team from Friday to Saturday. And Frank and Bob are good friends. They'll compete against each other. He'll have his team ready. And, it's not going to be a layup. It can be a layup if Minnesota decides it's going to be a layup, in my opinion.
I was just looking at my notes from the St. Cloud game, and I couldn't figure it out right on the fly. But there was one moment in the game where the middle stat Michael line got the puck in the zone and got some possession.
Yeah.
And they connected a shift.
Yes.
And it led to a goal. That's how you beat a team like Air Force who likes to slow the game down. You have to have those shifts where one seamlessly fits into another, and Air Force has to have guys out there playing against 2 or 3 lines.
Yes.
And if you can put that kind of pressure on a team, that's how you break it. You lose to teams like this when you have players who turn over the puck too quickly, and you give the opponent a chance to reset, get back in their structure, change lines, get fresh guys out there. When they can do that, you just condense the game and you have less opportunities to make plays. So you have to be fast, you have to be quick, you have to take advantage and connect.
Yeah, and consistency. And that's why, you talk about the depth of this team. And this is a team that, you want to be able to roll one after another. And, after a while, a team's going to look at you and say, whew, enough, and that's, that's what I think they're trying to get at with this team. As if you ask them, do you have a first line? No, we don't. We have 4 lines. And okay, if that's it, then that's telling me, okay, we're going to roll these babies and we're going to, one after another and smother you and attack you. And, and as you mentioned, take care of their own end, which I thought, like you said, Viggs, I thought they were terrific for a first game, for an exhibition game, for playing a lot of guys. I thought they were really good in their own end.
I just saw on the chat that it looks like Big Ten Plus just added the Saturday game as well. So they'll both be streamable on the B1G Plus platform this entire weekend for the Gopher games, both 9:30 games. So that's definitely a thumbs up there. I'm assuming, Viggs, you think they're going to win Friday night. I personally think they will, and they will be facing Omaha, who Minnesota ended their season last year. From what I recall, was a very unlucky play. The ice wasn't great there. The poor kid loses his edge, turns over the puck in his own zone, and that was in the back of the net. Who knows if the ice will be in Orleans Arena, but hopefully it's better than it was in Sioux Falls.
Yeah, I heard that they put in the ice, and they've had youth teams on there all week, some club teams. So they're trying to get the ice in better shape than your typical, Vegas Orleans Arena ice like we saw
Mhm.
for the North Dakota game out there
Yeah.
a couple years ago where it was terrible.
Yeah, and they had all the teams come out a day early, and so I know they skated today and tomorrow and Friday morning also. So it should be fine. But I think one thing with Omaha, they were so good up the middle last year. They lost a couple
Mhm.
guys that they're trying to replace. I mean, their centermen were really really good, and that was that kind of drove them. I think that yes, they played heavy and hard, and they had some big D and such. But I'm interested to see the replacements that they have this year. But they're well coached. Mike Gavinet's a good coach, and he always, one thing about him, he always, no matter, they could lose 10 in a row, he'll have a smile on his face, and he always gets his players ready to play. And so I hope they do meet on Saturday, because I don't like UMass.
Also a tournament team last year.
I'll tell you why, but not on this podcast.
Oh.
Yeah, I'll tell you sometime.
One
So what do you-
other thing to put on the podcast is I dug into the contracts for this weekend because I
Interesting.
know that there are some conflicts of fans who are trying to get to the Rose Bowl, Pasadena. And so they had that hard choice. Do I do that or do hockey? So I don't know what the atmosphere is going to be like in the building.
Right.
Even though Minnesota is the host, it's being run by this Nevada sports group, and they are taking the risk on all this. And Minnesota still gets their $40,000 for going out there and playing in the tournament, regardless of what happens for the gate. All their hotel rooms are covered. So just one thing to know, Gopher fans, even if it looks a little sparse in there, Minnesota's still getting their paycheck. It's going to be just fine.
What does it seat? I think 5,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a small little rink. So
I think it. I heard some numbers. It's not sold out, but
It is not.
I think it'll be okay. Not
I hope so. I hope so. It probably won't be great, but
Well, 9:30 later game, there could be a few liquored up people in there too, making a lot more noise.
Yeah. Well, 9:30 here, but 7:30 there. Yes.
Well, yeah, but still, we'll see.
Right.
So are we thinking sweep here, guys? Vigs, please tell me your predict sweep, because I'm saying sweep this weekend.
well, it's not really a sweep because you're going to be playing
It
other
is.
teams. But
Two
I
wins.
think they get 2 real wins against some teams that'll help them prepare for the season.
Yeah, I
Pat?
can.
Yeah.
I concur.
All right.
Yeah. I just I think they're one of the best teams in the country. So, and as we talked about, I'll go back to when we first started. They've got a little bite to them, and they've got a little.
Mhm.
I think I think this is a team that won't take things for granted. I hope I'm right.
We'll have to see. I'm looking forward to it. I'm glad we'll be able to hear you guys this weekend on the call, you and Wally. I think a lot of people will be listening to that because they don't want to pay for the B1G plus. So,
Well,
if
they do, they want to turn the volume down, and
yeah,
Ollie and I. I'll say
mute
hi.
TV, as Fallness would say, mute TV, right?
Yeah, correct.
Well, thanks for coming on the show, Pat. It's always
Well,
great to
thanks,
have you back on this
You know what?
podcast.
And I was gonna, but I didn't. I thought, should I ask him for 7:30? And
No.
but then I thought, oh, Viggs is gonna get mad at me. And
Oh boy,
I didn't even bring it up. I sucked it up for the team, Viggs.
you did.
Yeah.
You're a man of grace.
And I got
You
to
are.
get up in 5 hours. I got to be at the airport at 7:00.
Well, then, good night,
appreciate you.
Pat.
I appreciate you.
We appreciate it.
Hey, you guys have a great weekend. Thanks for having me on. I hope we do it again before the season ends.
Definitely will. Definitely will. And that's going to do it for this episode of the GPL podcast. We'll be back next week with a brand new show. I'm not sure on the guest yet, but of course, today we thank Pat for coming on the podcast, and stay tuned for some overtime. All right, coming up here is the beer of the week. Ooh, beer. Oh, that looks dark.
That is dark.
Before
It
the
is
dawn.
It is before the dawn of the hockey season. If you know me, I like Steel Toe quite a bit. Most underrated brewery in Minnesota. So this is a black barley wine ale aged in rye whiskey barrels. As Eric Sherhorn might say, it's like a loaf of bread. Cheers, everyone. It's hockey season.
Let's go. All right. I see Ryan complained about music. Too bad. I'm not changing it. It's new. It's more laid back. We're kind of laid back guys.
It's so good.
You know, you get
Knows.
and you know, sometimes you get sick of the other music, so you got to go with something different. And I did. And it's not changing next week, so that's how it is.
Okay.
Paulson is a stud.
He is. This is the kind of
Sandwich
freshman Paulson that Motzko has wanted to have for years. Is a guy like this. Big, heavy, experienced, really good in the dot. You know, I could really see him sliding into that power play instead of Brody Lamb. And filling in the face-off spot and letting Moore play kind of on the wing and not take draws there. We'll see.
While we were doing the show here, you see, my sister lives in Palm Harbor, Florida, just north of Clearwater, and they have water coming into their house from the foundation, from up underneath, as we speak, because they're just getting so much rain. They're not getting the eye wall, all this stuff, but they said the water's coming in from the foundation. He's got a picture of here. He's already having to take off the laminate floor right now during the storm because there's water's just coming up. So
tough deal. Our
but luckily they missed the dangerous parts. They're far enough away, and no. Now they're just getting the flooding, which is the northern part of the storm where they're at. They are getting a ton of flooding. So
our buddy Cappy has a place in Sarasota, which is where the eye of the hurricane hit Florida, and he got out there just in time. So we're
did. Yeah, what did he get?
Happy that he stayed. Yeah,
he left yesterday. He's like, "Yeah, I was one of the last planes out." I'm like, "Gee, Cappy, it's gotten a little close."
You go, Mote.
Here,
I've seen this on liquor shelves.
Let me give you the full screen here.
Town. I've seen this on liquor store shelves all over town. I think Steel Toe is distributing more of this lately. So I bought like 6 of them because they're one of my favorites. So try not to drink them all in one year.
Or drink them all in 1 year.
You know, I like variety and everything. So my wife.
You do.
So, you know.
So new microphone. Finally got rid of the Yeti, the big beast.
Headset you got going.
Just the headset. You notice I wasn't doing this all night.
Right. I think it was good for everybody to see you not fiddling with your ears.
I got sick of touching those damn things. No, I got a new set of earbuds and a new mic, and decided to retire the old Yeti, the blue Yeti. which I had for over 10 years. So shameless plug work there. Oh, there we go. Everyone go to Shorewood Liquor Saturday afternoons. Meet the Rube.
Get yourself some steel toe. He'll point you in the right direction.
I didn't go gamer. I just wanted something comfortable.
If you would have had the
the funny thing is, I could plug one into here. Have it come over.
You might have to do that just for
No, I don't want to.
Yeah.
But I do like I could put the cord in either ear. I could. It's interchangeable. It's kind of, and it kind of locks in too. So that's nice. So, now I just got to find a better way to mount the microphone a little better, because right now it's attached to the desk, and it like. Do you hear when I do this tapping?
I do now.
Yeah,
I haven't heard it before.
Yeah,
I'm pretty good at not tapping my desk.
I'm not. I'm a drummer. My feet are tapping. I'm always tapping, doing something. The old mic had a shock mount, but it just made it too big and too heavy. I could have tried to see it, just too heavy. And this is one of those low profile booms. So
I think you gave me a boom, but I didn't do anything with it. So sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. I've now got another one to get rid of. But, like I said, I since I tap so much, shake, and I did this one at work. The monitor's mounted on the wall and not to the desk. Shake, so that's good. Otherwise, I'm having this. Suck. Now I got to do the same thing with the mic. I'll find another place. I'll attach it to a shelf over here or something.
All right.
I do have a boom mic. It just doesn't have a spring mount.
And we lost Jupe because he was so upset at that. So I guess I'll just take overtime to myself now for a little bit. I ran into Brever at the football game on Saturday for Gophers USC. We got to chat briefly. He was drinking one of those, nice drinks in the football mug that costs about $20. He's got that big
really?
St. Cloud professor money.
That's his New Prague money.
Yeah, New Prague money the money goes a long way in New Prague. That's what people tell me. So, cost
not with their utility bills. Their utility bills are ridiculous there.
But we avoided Major Junior today. We had so many things to talk about. Yeah. We got Pat Micheletti on. You got to keep the show pretty tight. With our game script. So we kept it tight. We tried to shorten the game like PJ Fleck and just run out the clock on 6 topics. Major Junior didn't make the list, but it sounds like that's coming next year. I had posted some stuff on GPL thinking, hey, maybe with this light roster, they could add somebody for second semester. It wouldn't be for Major Junior if they did that. So disregard that speculation on my part. And
that's why it's speculation. It's fun.
After talking with some sources, I don't know how excited the staff would be about a Major Junior player coming to Minnesota too. It would have to be the right fit. So, some of the transfers have just kind of fallen as good fits for Minnesota with Wood and Soulier.
Mm-hmm.
And, Cruikshank obviously didn't work out great for Minnesota.
Worked out great for St. Cloud, though.
But I don't think Minnesota is one of those schools that was like really, really pursuing these guys. They were kind of pursuing Minnesota, and it was a good fit. Every coach I talk to says fit is 100% what you have to focus on when you recruit and you evaluate players. Because if you don't have a good fit, they're not going to work out. You're going to have locker room chaos and bad chemistry. That's not going to work. This team for the Gophers feels really tight. I talked to Nevers and Thomas about that today, and they were just like, we were not happy with the way the year ended, so we all stuck around.
I hope not.
And we pushed each other. So, if I get some time, maybe I'll write something up for the site on that with some details and thoughts. Got to get a little more access to the coaching staff here. We'll see if that happens. It was kind of a quiet media room on Tuesday, so me and Wally and camera guys.
You sent me the audio on that, and I was like, listen, I'm going, it's you and Wally. And I think someone else did chime in eventually, but for like the first 5-6 minutes.
Oh, Charlie Walters was there.
Oh, well, okay.
Charlie, shooter. He won't be there often, but it was cool to see him there because everybody.
Okay. Okay.
He was there, getting some notes for Don't Print That.
Gotcha. Gotcha. I'm like listening to it and going, Viggs is all alone in there.
I'm gonna have to ask a lot of questions this year. So,
Oh, well, like you said, when Jess isn't there, do you need to get on Bob's nerves and ask about, are you going to starting goaltending? Are you going to switch goalies?
I let Wally kind of do that
You did.
on Tuesday.
But
Wally's
Wally-
like, so,
Wally
holy
won't be there after
controversy.
games.
Yeah.
It's going to be me with a camera and you interviewing him, and
I think there'll be more people there for games.
Minnesota Daily. You think the Minnesota Daily would send somebody there during the day, or is it just?
I don't know. I don't know. I think we'll see a lot of people there for games at points, but just for a Tuesday afternoon, it's a little challenging.
Yeah. Wait a minute. That is correct. Though that particular one that's part of the beginning clip, that was actually before the playoffs. I took the next day off because of the early game and stuff. So that was actually, I think that was in March. Jupe making mistakes. So there's that. Where was Jess? What?
Yeah, Jess is now an outdoor reporter. Sounds like that's his full-time gig now. He's not going to be making the trek down to cover college hockey until the Frozen Four.
So he lives like in Inver Grove Heights. Is he moving to Duluth or something? I should have asked him that.
He's got the hunting shack.
He does. I want to see the McGregor area. Not sure which lake. Remember him? Something like that. Who knows? Soulier looked good in the third period. Viggs, the only goal they gave up was a breakaway, one middle mistake, but otherwise, the defense.
Now, there wasn't much there for
the
Huskies.
Wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, they got 18, 19 shots, and one was probably a grade A because it was a bad zone entry, and the D were already kind of split, and St. Cloud went right up the middle and got the breakaway because one of their players was hanging back, not back checking. You could see St. Cloud kind of put their tail between the legs as the game went on. Like, they got real chippy, and it felt like Minnesota was standing up to that. Like, Whipple and Thomas and Middlestat weren't going to take anything from anyone.
That's where the penalties came from, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Michael body slammed somebody down, and he got one of those penalties. And I asked Motts about that, and he's just like, I didn't really like the penalties. I like to stand up for ourselves, but you can't go to the box. I was like,
For me, I'm like, it's too bad it's an exhibition day. Michael gets on the score sheet.
Right. I don't know. Sometimes you got to show the bear that you're not going to back down, and just say, I'm here. We can go if we want to.
So basketball schedules came out today, so we're hoping in the next couple of days we get something on hockey. They got to figure it out. Just give us some game times. We don't even have that for any Big Ten games, except for Notre Dame. Notre Dame put out their schedule because they do their own thing.
They've got a little more control.
They do,
but I don't know if we talked about it during the show today because I don't know if Pat's supposed to talk about what he's going to be doing during the home games, but I think he's going to be on TV a fair amount. So something will be figured out soon.
From what I know, all the home games will be on TV. Don't know where yet. It's either going to be Fox 9, or Fox 9 Plus, Fox 9, or Big Ten Network. That's all I know. I know the games. I know the dates. We don't know specifically who's covered because, like you've talked about, Viggs, Rush Media took over for that.
Yeah, I got my media guide.
Yeah.
You can see all the radio broadcasts are set. There's no mention of TV anywhere around here.
Is that this year's already?
Yeah, this year's. It's ready for game one. So here we go. Yeah.
Wow.
Media guides and everything.
I should ask Slarks if he's got the PDF version of it. I like to make it available to people.
Mm-hmm. So it's out there.
It's
So that's a rare feat. I don't know how many
Yeah, a
times
lot of
Brian
times-
Deutsch got a media guide out before the season started.
Oh boy, I hope Deutschie's not listening.
It's mostly not his fault. So
No.
Yeah.
Did you get a credential yet?
yeah, I got a credential too. So I got my parking thing for availability day. So I'm good. I'm set for the year. I'm going to be watching lots of practice this year. So
It will be interesting to see if the coverage changes, but like you said, it's usually not till January or hopefully February if the Vikings have a great season.
yeah, well, I mean, Vikings are a story. Lynx are a story. Wild are mediocrity, but somehow they still basically sell out their building every game. Somehow.
And the Twins will not be on Bally Sports North next summer. That's an interesting thing. They finally a team broke away from that grip, and
Kind of-
Major League Baseball's taken over.
Kind of feels like that has to mean that the Timberwolves and Wild are on their last season with Bally's, right? Because if they get to April and they don't have any thing to broadcast, that can't be good for the network, right? Like,
No, you can't just show Texas Hold'em all weekend or all day, can you? Well,
Yeah.
that's kind of what they did in the
I
past.
mean, you're gonna have like the outdoor show, you're gonna have like the playing through with some young female and some old dude, playing golf, and you're gonna have
That's not programming.
poker and warehouse games. Although I'm entertained by the warehouse games a little bit. So
Warehouse games, what's that?
So like guys play wiffle ball or dodgeball or stuff like that.
In a
I
big
just
warehouse?
wish, yeah, in a warehouse. I just wish they
Okay.
had more like athletes come into it. Like it'd be pretty fun to see like, Joe Mauer playing wiffle ball or, somebody fun. I don't know. I think there's room for growth there, but I'm probably the wrong demographic for that.
Maybe.
Obviously, some of us are not watching much Bally's.
I don't get it on YouTube TV.
I got
so,
FUBU just so I could watch the Twins this year because I was believing.
I'm sorry.
I was a believer. I mean, I saw this team coming down the stretch. I went to a couple games. I was all in. I thought they were going to figure it out. I like Louis Varland coming in, showing some fire at the end of the year. It's just great.
Maybe if they wouldn't have cut their payroll so much, they might have made the playoffs.
They could have. But what's funny is that their payroll actually would be somewhat competitive with the teams that made the playoffs. Like they spent money. It's just, as Chris is saying, they had some bad injuries, kind of stressed their pitching staff a little bit. Had some stuff with the lineup. Kepler was out. Correa was out. Lewis was out.
I don't know.
Was out.
Speaking of baseball,
Joe Ryan.
One thing my sister sent to me, she goes, obviously she's in the Tampa area. She goes, I guess we're getting a new baseball field. Tropicana Field is topless.
It is Florida.
Did it? I wonder if I don't know, you can check the Twitter. Did Tropicana Field lose part of its top? What's the whole roof of Tropicana Field is off now? Oh wow.
Gonna be a lawsuit over that.
I didn't see that tweet or that message earlier from Forever. Yeah, I was just because the text my sister sent down about 45 minutes ago. I don't think they care so much because they all know that Tropicana Field is a dump.
Yeah, kind of a weird stadium.
Well, Barb says the whole roof is gone.
I did.
She's
see
watching the news.
Amelie had some barriers up around it. I saw
Mhm.
from some people trying to keep that out. I know. After being down in Tampa for the Frozen Four, it's just like I can't imagine that place with 15 feet of water
Mm-hmm.
in it. Like that whole, alley. What was the alley called? Where all the events were.
Someone in the chat will find it.
Yeah, but like that's kind of where Gopher fans were going. is, they had the bowling place where, they were playing the Rouser every 25 minutes and all the alums were hanging out, and they had like those food trucks that were like permanent. And we saw Allie Ray there with her.
I missed Allie Ray.
Yeah.
Okay, let me check the Twitter, see if I can find some Tropicana Field stuff here. So I can put it up on the site or up on the, let's see if I can see it.
Yeah, I didn't watch much hurricane coverage 2 weeks ago, but I watched more this week. I guess I was just interested with everything that was going on.
Oh, that doesn't look good. Let me see if I can get up, bring a share screen up here. There's a Twitter feed showing the roof mostly gone.
Wow.
Yeah, that doesn't look good. That's definitely holes in the roof. Wow.
I wouldn't think that would be rated for hurricane safety.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of looks like a Metrodome like situation.
Except they've got, you see, the Metrodome was one big, it was all fabric, though.
Yeah, these are panels.
It's like a framework. That doesn't look good, huh? Wow. That is, yeah, looks like they need a new baseball field down there in Florida. I don't think they'll get one up in time. So we'll see where Tampa plays next year. We'll have to see. So what else is going on, Viggs? Brever. They're just skylights. They could keep having the field. I guess if you rip all of it off, if the lights work, maybe.
Probably not ready to handle the elements.
They're not going to play at that dump of a field. Oh,
it's got character. I went and saw the Twins play Oakland a couple times when I was out in the East Bay. It was a good time.
Well, didn't the owner just stop taking care of the building too? He's like, this is how we're going to get a new place. Stop doing anything for maintenance.
Yeah.
It's just, wow.
It's tough. I was kind of being hard on the Wild earlier in the fan base, but at least their owner keeps footing the bill. Like
yes, he does.
Craig Leibold spends above and beyond to make his team a success. And
he does. They don't always make the right decisions, but they're trying.
Yeah.
And obviously you gotta sign Kaprizov to a long deal. It's gonna be expensive. Otherwise, apparently he's going to Chicago.
Yeah, I think that's why Craig was so vocal about that in his meeting with all the writers, that he can offer more years and more money than just about anybody. It's like, well, Chicago could offer more money. They've made bad decisions in the past with contracts, but unlike the Wild, they can get out of them somehow, whereas the Wild can't. And did you see what happened to Vegas? Their goalie didn't follow the procedures to like report for camp and get.
Yeah,
he had some mental health going on.
I heard something off the side. I didn't read it. I just didn't pay too much attention to it.
They didn't even have to put him on the LTIR, so they get like a free cap space accumulation. It's ridiculous. So,
well, we are oftentimes too close to the book here in Minnesota. We report on ourselves. Look at Ganglegate. I think any other school would have gotten away with Ganglegate, probably.
Nope, and that's why you need a Boy Scout like Mark Coyle in charge of the university, because there will be no improprieties happening, no shenanigans with him at the helm. So, yeah. So,
yeah, you're right, Carlson. It's strange how every other GM can figure this stuff out. North Carolina did get away with Ganglegate.
Even more, they got away with players like not even taking classes. At least Ganglegate, like they were taking a class and the tutor was writing the paper. In North Carolina, they were registered for a class and they were just getting free credits, basically. They didn't even have to go and have a tutor do the work.
North Carolina basketball, nothing bigger than that. Minnesota basketball. Yeah, we made the Final Four once.
Bobby Jackson, Bashawn Leonard,
Thomas.
Willie Burton,
Thomas.
Those are my John Thomas.
Yeah.
Those are my boys.
Oh yeah.
Great era.
That was a fun era, fun to watch.
I like Clem. Clem was great. Just trusted the wrong people, apparently.
Did Clem know, or he did not know, or he should have known, or
should have known? Glenn Mason always said, "Well, if you didn't know, you should have." And both are fireable offenses.
That is true. That is true.
If
you're letting someone doing that behind the scenes and you don't know it, yeah, you're not paying close enough attention. You're right. You're right. It just sucked. Obviously sucked for Clem.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
I'm excited about the Big Ten streaming for the games. I was kind of worried about how we were going to do this because I really did want to get down there for this.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just not an easy trip for
and it's not in Vegas. It's like it's kind of outside of Vegas where the Orleans Arena is. That's what I was told. I don't know. I didn't look.
Yeah, but you would still fly to Vegas and you would stay in Vegas and do all that, and it would be fun. It's just not a good time for me to be away. I'm still pretty involved in everything that's going on around here, so and my wife just got back from a trip. She was in Maryland for work. So
where in Maryland?
Somewhere along the water in the Potomac. There's a convention for food sale stuff. So she's in consumer packaged goods.
I was born in Maryland.
Okay. Yeah.
Visited Maryland many times. So
yeah. So we're happy to be back to full strength. Always were.
You're happy because then you're like, Dad needs a break.
We had a little bit of drama on Sunday because I took my son to the USC Gopher game on Saturday. And so it was late night. And then he had a 7:30 hockey practice the next day.
Did you go on the field?
Oh, yeah. We went on the field.
Nice.
I posted it on Instagram.
Oh,
I don't know if I posted my pizza on Instagram the last couple of weeks, but I posted us being on the field. It was a lot of fun. Like I said, I saw brother there. I think, I saw him at halftime.
He's just like, see the way you face. He's just kind of down. He's by the goalposts.
Yeah,
in that section of like 6 or 10 rows.
So he's in that plaza area. Yeah, and I'm in 101. So I'm in that first section of the stadium part. And so I go down the plaza and see people all the time. And it was just a lot of fun. We took the stairs onto the field and went by my buddy Quentin Carroll, who makes me look small, makes me feel good about myself. He's a massive dude. He's like 6'7", 340. Like he's just a large human.
Yeah.
And my son is like, well, some of these skill players, they're not that big, Dad. I was like, yeah, but they are super explosive.
Mm-hmm.
Like some of those runs that Taylor had and that jump that Coy Perich had on the interception at the end of the game.
Oh gosh.
It
was such a satisfying end of a game where it was like, it's kind of like finally we come back against a team. We get close. Mm-hmm. And we're all thinking, oh gosh, you're letting USC go right down the field. Oh my gosh. Oh my God. The old Minnesota thing. They're going to score, but they didn't. And that
brandishing a weapon penalty.
Yeah. He lifted up a shirt. I'm not lifting up my shirt, but
well, when you got an 8-pack, I will say I loved PJ's response when our buddy over at Gopher Illustrated, Ryan Burns, asked him about the penalty. He said that, you got to leave it in your own hands at that point of the game and not leave it in the ref's hands. And that's why I tell all of our players, celebrate with their teammates. You're never going to get flagged for celebrating with your teammates unless you're doing some choreographed thing that they like to do in the NFL now, like the parent trap handshake that they did at the Vikings game. If you just do good-natured celebrations, you'll never get in trouble. But if you start doing stuff like that, you now have given a 6-year-old white dude the opportunity to throw a flag and interpret it as brandishing a weapon. He doesn't know what's going on TikTok or in fashion
Correct.
or whatever. Like, he has no idea what you're doing. He sees you do that, and he's thinking, oh, yeah, he's showing a gun. That's what he's doing. I throw the flag. Don't do stuff like that. And you don't open yourself up to criticism. And I just think that mindset is so good rather than like the Lincoln Riley perspective after the game where he's complaining to the media about the horrible call that the refs made. Lincoln, if you just would have ran the ball all game, you probably would have won. You let Minnesota in the game and they took advantage and they put you in a spot where you had to make a play. You even got those second chances down the stretch to win it, and you couldn't do it.
Big win.
Two different perspectives on life. As much Fleck gets criticism from everybody, I feel like that's the right perspective.
Oh yeah, it was a fun game to watch. I was down here because I was watching the Gopher game. I was watching the hockey game. And I was kind of paying. I had the football game up on my laptop. I was watching the game here on the big screen, and that was fun. No sound for the entire first period was just what the hell.
Just fine with most Gopher fans not having to hear the Husky radio.
Yeah, and actually, I watched that was Saturday night. So Friday night, I was watching, Michigan, Minnesota State, because apparently my account was good on Big Ten. They renewed my ice thing, showed up as locked, yet I could still get in. So I'm like, that's good. And they had no radio or anything on that game, so it was like just the sounds of the game, the referees, So I'm like, this is kind of nice. A lot of people would probably like this after some of the stuff we've heard at Michigan and Michigan State,
right?
For these streams. Second night they did have the actual broadcast radio tapped in. Which
they didn't have the students again.
They had the broadcast radio for Saturdays. I didn't. I just checked in on that game. It was the Friday night, or there was nothing else on. I was definitely watching Minnesota State play, and of course Pitlick gets a goal, celebrates, and goes right through his teammates.
What a space cadet! I mean,
cadet.
I don't wish any ill will on him and his family, but he didn't get signed by an NHL team. Rem is still unsigned. The season's already started for the NHL. There's just something about those two that is not meant for team sports.
How about the Luciuses right now? How much is Mama Lucius just going nuts right now?
It's not their fault. It's not their fault, right? Couldn't be. That's the Lincoln Riley perspective. I don't think the Lucius family would play for PJ Fleck.
No. Victor, I'm looking at the chat. Wow. What? That's not what happened to Luke. It's just like they're always injured.
You heard he injured.
They're always injured.
They think they're injured, yes. So. It's hard to be at 100% and be a professional athlete or D1 athlete. So,
it's probably 0% of the time you're 100%. Yeah. There's always something going on.
Yeah,
it is what it is. What are the odds? Beat the Air Force hungover.
I don't think this team behaves that way. This is not a team of the late 90s. These guys are pretty disciplined. I get the sense that they're pretty buttoned up. They're having a team meal tonight, and I imagine it's all organized and structured, and everybody's making this
and like
a
Pat
trip
said,
to win 2 games.
Pat's just like slug them, knock them on their keister.
Yeah.
So, how's the beer coming?
Great. I'm on my last little pour here.
There you go.
This is a big beer. This is not one you can drink fast.
Oh gosh, it was huge.
You gotta enjoy it. I mean, I'm telling you, people, go see the Rube Saturday, or you can go to my friends at 1010 or Stinson. I'm sure they have good stuff for you too. There's some allocated bourbon hitting the market lately. It's about that time. I've gotten lucky with some of my stuff.
So the freshman won't be at Station 19 like Crowley was back in the day.
I mean, they might at times, but
all the players did that.
I feel like this team will be a little more buttoned up than most. So.
Well, isn't that what Grant Batonley said they had some problems with? What was it, that first championship year? They'd play well one night, go out and party, and not play well the second night. And finally they got to a point where, like, guys, we're going to stop partying, period. And they won a national championship. They all of a sudden they just flipped their, like, okay, we've had enough of this. Boom.
I remember one year there was a series where the Gophers were playing around Halloween, and I had heard that they had a Halloween party bus ready to go after a game. And I just remember that game, the players going through the motions from first.
Already on the party bus, you're saying then?
They were already on the party bus. Like, they won Friday. They didn't care about Saturday. And I was just like, man. I mean, I guess if that's what you want to do, that's what you're going to do. But
thoughts on the Mooney hit? That was ugly. Did you see that against Notre Dame?
Notre Dame. Yeah. It's too bad. I mean, that happens every once in a while, and the development team is really tight-lipped on anything injury. Like, it's hard to,
because they don't have to.
Yeah,
they're not beholden to any league. Not college. They don't know what. Yeah.
Well, I think they've got so many players that have advisors and agents that they just don't want to sour the milk there. Yeah. So they're not going to say anything. But, yeah, not a good hit.
No, it wasn't. Who's ready for the season, folks? Let's go. Vegas. Oh, boy, a 9:30 start. I might be into the whiskey by then.
Be careful.
And then Saturday night, I think we're going to Brad Williams down at the Fitzgerald, the comedian.
Okay.
And then we found out this morning or this afternoon, like, oh, there's a Wild game that night. So we're going to go there much earlier and get some parking and maybe get some food. But by the time that show, I think he's got a later, like a 9 or 9:30 show. By the time I'll be ready to listen. I'll be ready. I'll be driving home, listen to the game. So that'll be good. I can watch.
Yeah, I've got to behave myself. I've got an 8:45 practice on Saturday, and I've got an 8:30 coaching clinic on Sunday. So I don't know how aggressive I'll be, but I'm looking forward to the games.
Yeah, that's. If you're in, what does it say? If you're into the whiskey, can you do a fan reaction live stream? Just stream it right here. Watch it.
I've seen State of Hoppy do that quite a bit for Wild games with Isha, and I haven't seen Joe Smith jump into one of those yet.
Is that when they're on the couch? I saw him do something from the couch.
I think that's 10,000 Takes that does couch stuff.
Okay.
But maybe Hoppy does couches. I don't know. Maybe I'm just not that aware.
Does Hoppy need to get rid of his Pitlick jersey? I don't think it's doing very much for anyone now.
I think I need to meet him at Barrel Theory and set him straight and maybe get him to change.
I ran into him a lot during the Frozen Four.
Yeah.
In the hallways, at the restaurants. I ran into him a couple places. He was
That's a good dude. He's out and about. So I'm glad to see him and Joe having some success over there.
Oh gosh, yes.
Yeah.
It's nice. We're the old guys on the block, basically. We're old and we've been doing this forever.
It's okay. We love the people that stick with us. So
yeah. Well, doesn't give us that accurate number anymore. It just says how many people total streamed it.
It's good for our ego, though, to see that 1,200 people have tuned in. So
True.
I'll take that.
True.
This should be a good year.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Bob's trying to like not get over his skis, but I mean, this is a roster that's put together for now.
Yeah.
You know, when you get Snuggie to come back and you add Wood, you get Soulier who comes in to give you depth. This is a good group. So
That's from Mote.
I know I gotta figure out my configurations so I can get my hearts again.
No, it's not doing it. See if it says fireworks.
Fireworks. I gotta get those turned back on again. I got
I don't know why
the
it
no fun
stopped.
computer.
That's weird.
Yeah.
That's weird. All right, let's call it here. Get the podcast posted, get some sleep.
I don't think Rudd's injured, by the way. I think they just decided 8D was enough. I thought Whipple looked admirable out there. He's physical. He's a big put together dude.
The whole team's big for the most part.
Like this blue line, except for Kester, all those dudes are tough in the corner.
He took a shot after, his slick little move heading to the net.
Thankfully, he didn't get hurt this year. So,
ooh boy.
Yeah.
All right, folks, we will catch you next week. Good night, everyone.